Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having an inspiring day today. And today I wanted to take another look at New York City. And the main reason why, this is just a view, this is Ellis Island in New York in the back. But I was looking around the other day and I found this site. This is actually, I was looking into the glass manufacturing and I found this map, and what it says down here is, notice the Dutch fort at the location where the World Trade Centers were once located. So I just found that interesting and was just wondering, is this some kind of geomancy, because we see this stuff all over the place, patterns in the ground and all these different shapes. So, obviously the World Trade Centers, I just found that very interesting that they built that over the top of this star fort. And of course we know that there are other star forts out here in the water, including Ellis Island. And now this says, this is from 1640, I think. And this is the glass makers and different people. And you can see this is Manhattan. And Manhattan, as far as I can tell, has been built up quite a bit. I've got this picture and someone has overlaid, an old map. And as you can see, because Battery Park's down here, and I knew that the World Trade Center wasn't there, but it looks like that's actually all reclaimed land, because this person's lined up the streets. And another thing that you'll notice as well, guys, is that this is more than just a star fort. If you can see, there's a big wall around it as well. So just a bit of history on the star fort there. It's called Fort George, basically. It's Fort Amsterdam, subsequently named Fort James, Fort Willem Hendrik, Fort James again, Fort William, Fort Anne, and Fort George was a fort at the southern tip of Manhattan that was the administrative headquarters for the Dutch and the British rule of New York from 1625 until being torn down in 1790 after the American Revolution. And down here it says, in October 1683, what would become the first session of New York legislature convened at the fort. So that basically this, they're saying, was their seat of power. And if we come down here to the construction, and you'll see this is the Dutch East India Company. So around 1620, they contacted the English architect Inigo Jones, asking him to design a fortification for the harbour. Jones responded in a letter with a plan for a star-shaped fortification made of stone and lime and surrounded by a moat. Defended by cannons, Jones advised the company against constructing a timber fort out of haste. The building of the fort commenced in 1625 under the direction of Willem Verhulst, the second director of the New Netherland colony. And down here it says that despite Jones's plea in his letter, the plan for the masonry fortification was abandoned, however, out of the need for a hasty completion. So they're saying that the first fort there, again, they love to say that things are built in stages. They're normally earth first, then they're wood, then they become stone. So they're saying that it was built out of wood. Then it says a growing threat of Mohawk Mohican War itself was partially the result of the fur trade, so of course, because I was going around killing everything, and the lack of labour and natural resources to construct a proper masonry fort. So they built it out of wood. And then again, the same old story. No shots were fired. When on August 27, 1664, the Dutch surrendered the fort. Second Anglo-Dutch War. So basically, again, no shots were fired. It was handed over. In August 1673, Dutch brought in a fleet of 21 ships and recaptured Manhattan. The fort was renamed William Hendrik, blah, blah, blah. And then they say they changed the name of it. And if you'll notice, There's no mention at all anywhere in this of when it turned from wood to masonry. Definitely said that they didn't build it in masonry here, they built it in wood. Despite the previous letter, the plan for the masonry fortification was abandoned. You know, lack of labour, blah, blah, blah. No shots were fired. They handed it over. Then they came back, the Dutch, and they retook it. It was renamed New Orange. The Dutch attack was part of the bigger Anglo-Saxon War. And that's it. Then it just goes into a bit of an island. And yeah, some pictures. So there's this fort there, and again, we don't have a story, you know, and there's just nothing. It doesn't say, it doesn't even say when it was built as masonry. They just sort of skip over it. There are some pictures down here. Thought we'd have a bit of a look. View of Fort Amsterdam. 1635. The fort was erected in 1623, but it was erected in wood, is what they're saying. You can see that's it down there. Sorry, I can't enlarge this photo, but that you can see is the star there. Okay, now here are some. These are the old pictures from the bottom of that blog, and as you can see, these are all brick buildings. This one even looks like it's got windows going into the ground. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-story buildings, big spires on top, all brick, and we've got this step effect as well on the front, which we see in Europe and around the world on different buildings. Not sure exactly what it does, but it's a definite building style we see. Here again, you can see they're definitely depicting that same kind of building. So they, you know, these are proper depictions. Now this is in the 1600s, guys. Got a big canal built here, and brick buildings everywhere. But yet they say they didn't have bricks because they couldn't. So that one was 1664, I think. No, it doesn't tell us. This one here, it says 1664. And again, the exact same building. See this step up? This step up effect? All these brick buildings along here. You can clearly see this is the 1600s. No roads, just mud. Looks like there's windows in the ground. Windmills. But yet they say that they could not build the star fort out of masonry due to the lack of labour. Lack of labour and natural resources to construct a proper masonry fort. Yet look what was around. Does this make sense that they think they need to build a fort to defend the colony, but instead of building the fort out of brick and the houses out of wood, they build the houses out of brick and the fort out of wood? That doesn't make sense. Here again. Have we got a date for this one? No, but you can see this is clearly old. Nice big arch there. And the exact same architecture again with this stepped effect. And here's a nice window going into the ground, drawn in this picture. And even just look at this. That's a man-made wall. That's not the beach. So this is clearly, there was all this stuff going on in the 1600s in New York, New Amsterdam. This one's obviously a bit small, sorry, but this is the star fort there. And that clearly, that looks like it's made out of brick or masonry, not wood. And here's, this is a map from an old book. This picture's from 1656, New Amsterdam or New York. And again, this is the star fort. And look at the amount of houses around it. All the way down there and then up again on the hill. And these are tall. Look at the size of some of these ones. Tall lone building out there on the edge of the water by itself. God, is that a gallows or something? So yeah, I mean, this is 1656 and they're brick buildings. I mean, you can just see this looks like it's, I don't know, drawn like it's wooden. Who knows? These are 2, 3, 4-story buildings. You know, the same stuff we see everywhere. 1650s, guys. But they didn't have the wood to build their fort. Here's another one. 1671. Same story. You can see that's the exact same building in the Star Fort, and just buildings everywhere. 2, 3 stories. Here's another one from Matthew Suter, New York and New Amsterdam. And look at this, completely built out, 1673. And look at that, and built right out, right on the water here. But just look at that, like completely built out with brick buildings. Look at this, that's a 3, 4-story brick building. Got a dome here. And like even the shoreline, you can see, has been, you know, altered. That's not a natural shoreline. That's in 1673. And there was actually this in that book as well. This is obviously the Star. The fort at New York. And here you've got everything, sort of tells you what each building is. The chapel. And it's a bit small, can't really read it. The governor's house, the officers, into something, soldiers. So basically, of course, it's always turned into war. These have to be about war. And they, you know, that's the Star. There you go. And again, this is no kind of, you know, schematic or building construction plan or anything like that. This is just a floor plan. Some, you know, after the fact. And this is an old book, Peter of New Amsterdam, A Story of Old New York. And look at that street. Look at those buildings. This is obviously it's a drawing, but look at that. And this is just a bit of a story. Looks like the words aren't in here. It's just, I'm not sure what the story is. Some kid walking around, but just, this is from the 1660s, I believe. 1670s. You can tell by the, you know, the clothes they're wearing, but just have a look. See, this is all brick. Brick buildings, that's all brick. You can see that's wood. They've drawn that as wood, but this is brick. That's wood. Brick, brick, brick. And glass in the windows in the 1600s, right? Brick everywhere. In the background, big towers already with big spires on them. Man-made canal already. More brick buildings. Poor kid getting whipped. I'm not sure exactly where this is supposed to be, but clearly these are the houses you would expect to see. Little one-story houses. You know, made of the wood that's around, easily accessible. No need to, you know, start industries and do heavy manufacturing. You can just cut down trees, build your houses with them. But what we see is just brick everywhere. It looks like he's on the boat at the moment. And here we have some Indians. More Indians getting some trinkets. Indians' hut in New York. Some of their tools. And again, this is what you would expect to see, guys. This a wood, you know, log cabin. Because here are the trees. You just cut them down and you can build a log cabin. All you need is, you know, 3 or 4 people, a couple of axes and a saw, and you're on your way. Looks like these guys didn't even have axes, so they would burn the base of the tree out until it fell. Again, wooden, you know, wood log house. And this is just all about them trading, okay? Wampy belts. But then what do we get? This. a 3-story brick house, and another one, and brick walls. You know, this is really what they could build, guys. These, no, they couldn't. They didn't have the industry. Again, this is the Star Fort again. As you can see, this is all really about trading and stuff, but I just wanted to show you, this is clearly, you know, you can see, it's clearly the pictures are depicting the 1600s, just with the garb they're wearing. And again, brick buildings, and that stepped effect we see everywhere, or we've been seeing in this video, you know, all through New Amsterdam or New York. Again, brick buildings. Now this is wood. This is a bit of a wood fort here, this wall, but this in the background, the Star Fort, that's not wood. This is wood. Ships, more brick buildings. And so this is what was going on, guys, back in the 1600s. Again, you know, it's a good sized fort, this one. Houses out the front with that, looks like they've got that stepped effect here. Big towers, I mean, these are big buildings. And again, these houses with that same effect. And look at this one, look at this one. And look, windows going straight into the ground, drawn in the 1600s. So if you count that, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories and a big dome on top. All bricks, all made with this same stepped effect. Again. So what's the deal here? Clearly these people don't have the skills or the materials, the industry, anything to build these houses. They have the wood to build the wood log, you know, the log cabins and that, sure, but this other stuff, who really built it? There's another one in the background there with the dome on it. Again, these are, you know, these are proper big brick buildings. You know, proper, you know, who's making all the windows? Again, look at the roof on that. I mean, why would... And again, it's, you know, why go to all the effort of these big buildings and all that step work out of the bricks when you don't have to? Extra work, extra materials. You know, there's another one there. So this is, you know, clearly these are depicted in so many pictures, this type of house. There's the Star Fort again, and that is brick. Okay, this is not wood. Now this is in the 1600s. When did this change from wood into brick? Again, big 2-story houses and things. But how? Again, there's that same effect. Here's the Star Fort. And there we go. So what do you think about that? You know, we're told that, you know, they just sort of turned up and they were trying to get forts and they were still, you know, fighting over the territory. But in the background we have all this ready-made town, city full of brick buildings. So clearly the story we're being told, it doesn't add up, guys. It's not true. We're being lied to. And I also found this and just wanted to touch on this. This says, where did the rubble go? From New York's subway excavation, which is a good question. So the subways in New York were built in 1904. They started on October 27, 1904. So where did all the rubble go? Because as you can see, these are big. This is obviously a modern picture. It has been extended since it was started, 1904. According to the New York Times article, the creation of New York City's first subway, first 22 miles, required the removal of 3.6 million cubic yards of stone and dirt. So much dirt that if organised into a pile, it would reach 12 miles into the air. Into the air? Interesting words. So where did it all go? So this is the first one they say is Ellis Island. Ellis Island, which spans nearly 28 acres today, started out measuring just over 3 acres. The first expansion of Ellis Island was completed in 1902 with infill from the excavation of the IRT subway tunnels in Manhattan. So this is Ellis Island today. Now, this is Ellis Island back in the day. I can't get an exact date for this one, but I'm not sure really. It could be. It looks older just because of the, vanilla skies and things. But I mean, it could really be up to the 40s or 50s, I guess. But my point is, look at the size of the island here. Okay, we've got this star point here, a bit of a star fault point. And we've got this channel in the middle and basically 2 squares. Now, here's the star fault point. Buildings, this is viewed from the other side. You can see the canal here and the 2 squares or rectangles. Now that to me, it looks pretty much exactly the same size. Look, we've got a water tower here, water tower there. So what have they filled in? Now this was a search for Ellis Island in 1900, and of course if you haven't seen Ellis Island, check out this building. Now this building, they say they built for immigration. This is where all the new immigrants built, and that's the kind of building you would build, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can see it here, out on an island as well. And look at the mammoth size of it. But yeah, basically, the island does not seem to have changed. The size of it. They say they put all this, millions of cubic feet, was it, of dirt, but the actual layout of the island, I can't find my picture now, seems to be the same. So did they really dig out these tunnels? Whoops, how do I get that? And where did the dirt go? Because it's a good question. That looks the same though. So this is Ellis Island. They say, now Ellis Island, obviously, this is the star fort. It may have been filled in a bit, but it doesn't look like it has been from 1900 or so. This is the Statue of Liberty, which is another star fort. And there was, of course, a star fort on Manhattan. But they're saying that they built these all, and they've done all this work, and because they say a lot of the dirt also went to Governor's Island, which is also a star fort. And then they just sort of say the rest went to, to the City College of New York. So this is a good one as well. This is rock from the subway tunnels isn't always used as landfill. According to Kenneth Jackson's Encyclopedia of New York, excavated Manhattan schist excavated from the first subway tunnels of Manhattan was used to build the impressive neo-Gothic structures of the City College of New York in Upper Manhattan, completed in 1907. Look at this place. Built out of stone or covered in stone. Has this same architecture sort of, this is the castle style. Big clock on its tower. Now these almost look like those steppy bits, but very symmetrical. And of course it just goes straight under the ground here. You can see these windows stepping up to the front, and this is ground level there. And so it's all been to the front door, and that comes down to this level, and then this one goes down again. So they've built this massive building under the ground, or set, with the bottom floor under the ground. And they say they built it with the schist, which I'm not really sure what they're talking about, because this, in the next bit, it says that that's just dust. Construction of the 2nd Avenue subway churned out 5,000 tons of rock a day. The rock the workers tunneled through to build the subway line was Manhattan schist, a rock that is twice as hard as concrete. It can be found in many buildings in New York, like the City College of New York. After being bored through and ground up, schist is referred to as mole rock. Okay, so I'm not sure what they're trying to say here, because this sounds like they're saying it's so hard that they literally had to bore through it, which turned it to dust, and then it looks like they may have reconstituted it as mole rock. But this building here, clearly that doesn't look like it's made of reconstituted rock, does it? Looks like real rock. So I'm not sure what they're trying to get at there. But apart from the fact that there's no way they built this half under the ground in 1907. So there we go. I just sort of wanted to touch on that as well, that we do have these stories of, where did all this dirt, this is not even talking about the problems of, getting all that rock and dirt out and transporting it. Here's another one, Ute Thant Island in the East River. They're saying they built another island. And Flushing Meadows at Corona Park. Oh, watch out about Corona Park. Apparently there's viruses. Oh, so there you go. They've just made a big dump of dirt here. Is that a person? It's a big lot of dirt and rubble. So where did this dirt and rubble really come from? Did it come out of boring holes through the New York subway? Or did it come out from, cleaning out around buildings maybe? Is this just another story? Because clearly this Ellis Island, it hasn't changed in size. But they're saying the dirt went there. So where did all this dirt come from? So this is what I'm saying, is because I showed a picture yesterday. I'll just find it. And this is it. And you can see this is, someone replied, I was asking what this was. Someone replied in the comments, said that this is indeed like a subway station. This is how you get down to the subway. Now this picture is from 1904. And there's already a subway station there. So how did they get all the dirt out of there if they dug it? We're talking, 1904 is the year that they said that they started to build the subway. And this story, it just doesn't add up, because the tram's already there, which they say was built in 1907. And if you watch my video from yesterday, New York, questioning his story, there's a building that they built, and they said it was dependent on having a train line coming up close to it, that so that the residents could get transport into the city, because it was so far away. But as you can see, this is clearly built up, and we have subway stations here, we have trams running, and none of this was supposed to be here. So what is going on? Oh, that's the De Rilton from yesterday. Another amazing building. That's the one they said they needed to get the transport to. So what's the deal? Where is all this dirt coming from? Is this actually something else? Have they actually cleared out the mud from the buildings? Because it looks like it's full of, rubbish and stuff, doesn't it? Could just be rocks, but it's just, this up here, it just looks like debris. And it's just a big pile of it, and there's just sort of debris hanging around, lying around. And they've even got pipes here, ready to go somewhere, the subway, I guess. But so that's the question. Where did this dirt really go if it didn't go to the islands that they're telling us? This is really the only pile that we can see that looks like they've dumped it somewhere. But did it come from the subway, or is this the remnants of cleaning out New York City after they found it? Because as we saw before, there were pictures from the 1600s showing mud-flooded buildings that were made of brick, but the official narrative says they didn't have enough masonry or manpower, labour, to construct a fort out of brick. They had to make it out of wood. So there you go, a few ideas to think about. I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Bit of another walk through New York City. So thanks for spending some time with me, and I shall catch you on the next upload. Bye for now.